All right, hello everybody, and welcome to your PolicyMap tutorial. So I'm just going to walk you through very quickly how to access PolicyMap through the Seton Hall homepage. It's very important that you follow these couple of steps at the beginning just to make sure that you get logged in with your user account enabled username and software. So you already have access to PolicyMap because you're a member of the Seton Hall community. So you want to make sure that you go through the login process. Otherwise, you won't be able to use its full its full capabilities. So if we click over on this drop down here, the academics, and you just navigate to university libraries. Now, one thing that's important is just make sure that you're already logged in to the Seton Hall homepage. So go through your login process and then go back to this page and then go through it. And I'm going to show you how to check and make sure that you're logged in as well. And if you go up here to find, right, click on find, go to databases, click on P for PolicyMap, and then you scroll on down and there's PolicyMap right there. So a little bit of a to-do, right, to kind of get in, but it's really the best and easiest way for you to make sure that you're logged in. And then if you are logged in properly, you'll notice that there's this Seton Hall logo up here at the top of the screen. Okay, so this is PolicyMap. This is the piece of software that we're using for paper number 2, and then you also have it as an option to use for paper number 4. They just updated all of the bells and whistles here, so there's actually some pretty neat and pretty cool stuff. One thing that I'll call your attention to on PolicyMap is that they have a COVID-19 map maker up here. So if anyone is still interested in writing about COVID-19, you of course have that option as well. But for the pre-writing exercise that I've posted, I want you guys really to just start playing around in this and start generating data and start visualizing data. So PolicyMap's purpose and ideology is to sort of give geospatial imagery to data, right? To show how it lives, to show how it moves, to show how it exists, right? And from the name, you can probably guess that they specifically are using this to hopefully inform policy. So just give it a look-see. So the first place that I would like you to go is you can either go directly to reports, or if you're interested in a specific zip code, so let me just try it out here, 07079. Right, so that is the zip code for, I believe, South Orange. Yes, it is. Okay, I guess I remembered it correctly. And then once you enter that in, you can go to reports. And this is a really good kind of first stop. So what reports does is you can go to either rental housing reports, home mortgage reports, or just the general community profile. So if you click on the general community profile, and then you click down here on generate report, blah blah blah. So they recommend that you use the zip code tabulation area. That's fine. What it does is it generates basically all of the data that they have, census data that they have on this area, right? So a really kind of nifty and cool place to go when you're just getting started, right? So you want to start here. Maybe if you don't know what kind of topic you're interested in, maybe you start here and you just start breezing through and say, well, I am interested in the ways in which age distribution and incomes are related, or maybe the ways in which racial characteristics are related to whatever it might be, immigration, family households, income, housing types, right? So you can go here first, I think, and start just kind of getting a feel for, what exactly is PolicyMap? What does it curate? What kind of data does it include? So you can click on this X here and it will take you back out. Now, what I want you to begin doing in PolicyMap is I want you to start thinking about your parameters that you might be interested in looking at. So this will involve that you generate a hypothesis, right? So these are all of the parameters that they offer to you up here, and they all have drop-down bars, right? So demographics, income, housing, and then there's all these other kind of minor things within. So this is really a sandbox that you need to explore in, right? So let's just start adding parameters to the map and sort of get a hang for exactly what PolicyMap is. So say we go to demographics and we go to race, and say we want to see where the populations, and we want to track the populations of Black or African Americans, and we click on all. So what it does is now it adds a layer to the map. Now everything turns purple, right? Where all of the parameters are met, everything turns purple. So right now you'll notice over here, we have our parameters set from 0 to 100. So even if there's no people living at all in this space, it's gonna ping purple, right? So that's one of the tricky things that you have to be mindful of. So we want to see where, I don't know, maybe there's a high population of Black or African American people living. So we have to start thinking to ourselves, well, what does a high percentage of that look like? And this is where you're going to begin defining your first parameter, right? So you can actually see, it's sort of small. I don't know if you can make it out, but you can see sort of the deviations here. So you can sort of see the line where there's the highest concentrations. But let's just start moving it, right? And as we move it, you can see the map begins to change, right? So we're up to 9%. Let's see. We're up to 20%. We're up to 30%. And notice how as we get higher in population, right? And this is the drama of this project. And this is what I want you to build into your eventual pieces. Notice as we get higher in the concentration of population of Black and African American people, South Orange begins to, right, shrink. The purple in South Orange begins to shrink. And we can see that we can definitely see that trend continue, right? And notice it's all moving in one direction. So then we can start thinking to ourselves, well, what does that mean, right? And then we start, maybe we want to look at this area over here, right? And then the area is Newark. If you click on these individual sections, right, the purple sections, it will tell you what percentage actually exists in that space. So when you're defining your parameter, you might begin thinking to yourself, well, okay, what actually is a high number? Right now we're at 68, but we see there's this place where there's 90%. So maybe we want to pop it up to 90% and see, like, well, where is the absolute highest concentration, right? And then we can begin to see that. And maybe we say, oh, well, we went a little too far. Maybe we want to go back down to 80, and that'll give us a pretty good picture, right? So let's look at something else, right? So maybe we want to make some suggestion that demographics and income is related, right? So income, maybe we want to do family income, all families, and we want to start making some settings there. Now remember, where the purple is met is where all of the parameters are going to be met. So that's one of the tricky things, and one of the interesting sort of writing things that I want you to work on is that you're trying to write accounting for each parameter, right? So you're going to have to explain to your audience that, what we're looking at is where there's between 78 and 100% Black or African American citizens making between, right, XYZ value of money, right? So it's a lot to hold in your head, but that's actually kind of the point. I want you to be able to take these big concepts, these big statistical concepts, and boil them down into writing, right, into linear writing. So that's sort of the point of the assignment. And again, we actually have a clearer sort of bell graph here. So we can see that a little bit more clearly. But let's take a look, right? Let's try and see where our incomes are going to meet. So maybe, right, like, what are we looking at? We're trying to say maybe, are there low incomes here in this space compared to its sort of peer spaces? So we might think to ourselves, well, what is a low income, especially in New Jersey, right? I would argue that a low income in New Jersey is anywhere from 37, right, to 50. And we can actually broaden that a little bit, right? Maybe somewhere from 15,000. Actually, let's just set it at its lowest, right? 15,000, and let's say 46, right, for a low income. And again, in your paper, you're going to want to kind of walk us through exactly what that means. Hold on. So you can't see, but unfortunately you can't see behind my face, but there's a plus and a minus arrow over here, right, in the bottom right. So if you click on the minus, it'll kind of zoom you out there. Okay, great. So now we get kind of a larger view, right, of what's happening here. And again, right, as this grows and this changes, you're going to want to take careful screenshots and place them into your paper so that you can show the change, right? As the parameters change, the map is going to change. And that's sort of that's the cool part, right? That's the thing that you want to show. So let's go to, let me think. I think it's in health. I'm looking for something specific. Maybe it's in quality of life. Yes, quality of life. So you know, I've done this example a few times, and this one always kind of yields good results. So if you go into quality of life locations and you click on brownfields, what brownfields are there places where there's been some kind of environmental contamination, right? So this could be anything, right? It could be an oil spill, it can be an old factory that wasn't cleaned up properly. It could, you know, it could be a handful of things, right? But for whatever reason, the property is deemed, right, as somewhat of a health hazard, or hasn't been cleaned up. And actually, if you click on them, usually they give you a little, they give you like a very brief, very small kind of descriptor. Vacant and undeveloped, secured with chain link perimeter fence, parcel is covered with dirt, residual rubble, right, from building demolition, right? So there's the building demolition aspect of it, right? So it hasn't been properly cleaned up, right? And so what I want you to sort of note here, and as we sort of begin to play with this graph, right, we can sort of see that where all the brownfields are very much in places where we're seeing purple pop up. And the places where there's absolutely no purple, we don't see a whole lot of brownfields, right? Especially in this area, right? You can see sort of plain field, and let's see if we can kind of get closer, right? You can see that there's some exceptions, and that could be for any reason. But as you can see in this area, right, as we begin to play with this, let's see, right, and we begin to toggle these numbers, yeah, let's keep it at 100%. You can see that the purple generally hugs these brown fields, right? So now we might be able to say something about that. We might be able to suggest a relationship. We might be able to argue that something needs to be done about this, right? To whoever your audience member is. And remember that that's one of sort of the tricks of this assignment, is it's a persuasive assignment. So you're asking your audience for something, right? So this is where you can begin analyzing that relationship, asking for something, right? Telling them like there's this clear relationship here between these things. You'll notice as this moves, you'll notice that there's a high concentration of these things here, right? And that for that reason, I believe that we need to clean up these brownfields, right? Or, you know, put more of an investment in the health of Black and African American communities, right? Whatever it might be and however you want to word it is up to you and your creativity of the piece, right? So that's PolicyMap. That's how to use it. If you guys have any questions about this, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to do a PolicyMap session, especially if, you know, you're just in sort of the pre-writing phase of the paper and you want to meet with me and you want to walk through PolicyMap and how to access it and all that. I'm more than happy to do that. All right. So good luck. Happy playing in the sandbox. All right. Have a good one.